Hi there, my name's Nick Sutherland, and this is my life channel. This week we're going to talk about my previous job experience. So, I applied for a company called Shopify, which for you who are unfamiliar with what it is, it's an e-commerce platform online. It was founded in Ottawa, Canada, and serves most of the world now, one of the biggest e-commerce platforms. I personally found Shopify back in 2013 or 2012 when I first started my first business. I was looking around for different e-commerce platforms and I came across Shopify and haven't left it since. Just to explain how it works is you apply for your job, so you give your usual resume, cover letter. They had throw in a little trick in there to see how detail oriented you are. So got all that. Actually got a offer for a life story, which is just an interview with an actual person. So they talk about who you are as a person, what's your experience. They really do like unique people who have e-commerce expertise, any entrepreneurship. Obviously, I've been using the platform for a long time, so they did appreciate that. And then it took about another 5 days or so before I got what they call the gauntlet, which is kind of throwing you on a mock job to see how well you'd perform. And I actually had to do that midway across Ontario. So I was at an Airbnb and sat down with really terrible internet and did the entire gauntlet. I did really well, and I've been using the platform since at that point it was 3 or 4 years using the platform. So I was pretty good at using the platform. So for the gauntlet, I did really well, and didn't hear back for another week or so. And then I heard back when I hit Calgary. I heard back, and they're saying, "Yeah, you have an interview tomorrow." It was a final interview just to get me into if I fit in properly, then they'd get me into the job. Did that in Calgary, again with terrible internet, early in the morning, and then didn't hear back for another week or so. That was probably the most frustrating part, is after each one they wouldn't tell you right away. It's understandable, they're a pretty big company, but I would expect a little better communication. But again, they're a big company, no complaints. Got to Whistler, this is where I live. And yeah, they sent me a job offer, which is awesome. They said, "Congratulations, you got the job. You will start training in 3 weeks." Everyone kind of starts off in the support area. They all start off as a guru, which is just like a frontline customer support, tech support kind of situation. And you get to work from home, which is awesome. So there's no offices. They have an office in San Francisco, Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, Waterloo. I think that's everything, all of them. But everyone else from the remote team are across Canada, in the Philippines. They're getting some new spots. I'm not sure if I'm at liberty to say where they are, so I will keep that confidential. So yeah, you work remotely. I worked from my trailer in Whistler. As long as you have fast enough internet, but honestly, you don't need that good internet. I had probably 15 to 20 down, 5 up, and I did fine. It was a little bit stressful during the training because you do video training through Zoom or Skype or Google Hangouts, so you have a lot of people all in one room. But once you actually get in the guru position, you actually don't need a lot of bandwidth at all. It's a pretty low bandwidth. You're mostly talking on VoIP, answering emails, and on live chats, which just don't take a lot. So the training, it was I believe it was 4 weeks of training, or maybe even 6 weeks of training. Very extensive. You're working 40-hour weeks. You actually get your full salary off the bat, and some benefits off the bat. They do have good benefits. They pay all right. You start your pay around $40,000. At least that's where I started. You do get promotions pretty quickly. So within 4 months, I got a raise. They do definitely recognize people who work really hard. But yeah, so you spent, I think it was 4 or 6 weeks. I can't quite remember, training. So you're every single day you're at your desk on video. Learning the internal tools, you have to learn the platform, and you're a group of about 10, 15 people. And so I did that for about 4, again, I don't really know, it was 4 to 6 weeks. And then you're kind of thrown into the job. You do get, at the end of the training, you do get 2 weeks of just pure mentoring, so you're 2 people with one tenured guru. and you work alongside them with real chats, just to kind of perfect what you learned. But then you're just thrown in there, and I did honestly, for a guru, I did really well. I had the highest or second highest in my squad. So there's to explain the squads, there's about 10 people per squad, with the squad lead, so your supervisor. And then there's time zones. So there's a time lead for each time zone in Canada or overseas, etc. So in my squad, I was first or second the entire time. I worked my ass off. I worked really hard for what I do. I do believe in high quality work. I run my own company on the side as well, and I would expect nothing less from my employees, so I give the same to another company. And they did respect me for that. I got a raise fairly quickly, and I was on track for a promotion. I was looking at theme support, tier 2. I was also looking at some dev team stuff, as well as some biz ops. But ultimately, I didn't end up getting there. For anyone who's applying, anyone who's watching this, who's curious what your day-to-day is, you have different time slots. So I took the 10 to 6 time slot, which is Pacific Standard Time where I am, so 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And your day-to-day you have half an hour at the beginning of the day, which is jump off. So some teams will have meetings, but we just answered emails and kind of caught up on our queue, or just getting ready for the day. And then you spend between 3 to 4 hours on either chats or phones, have a half an hour lunch, and then the same thing. You have either phones or chats for the afternoon. And then you have half an hour at the end of the day to answer emails, wind down, and then get the head out. Now, 3 times a week, you have professional development time, which is an hour professional development, or training, depends on what's going on. So there are a lot of training materials you have to learn. So they do designate some time to learn training and learn the new products, etc., that are coming out. But and then you have these professional development times. So you can work on your own websites, you can learn the platform better, develop your intellectual skills, anything pretty much that builds you as a person. You have that time. So I do give kudos to Shopify for keeping their staff mentally sane. It is a pretty high stress job. You have a lot of people you have to answer to. When you're on chats, you have 3 or 4 chats, so 3 or 4 different people you're answering to, and you also have to do follow-ups and escalations and answer emails. So there is a lot of work. It's pretty high pressure, and they do expect a lot out of you. And again, like I did between 20 and 100 interactions a day, depending on how fast we were and how busy our queues were. So I did very much appreciate those hours, the hour times, because I needed it. I need that time to catch up on my work. I need that time to kind of step away and take a deep breath. And then usually on Fridays, at least for our squad, we had a team time. So it's just your time to communicate with the team builds, family build, all that fun stuff. Because everyone is working remotely, right? Like I had people from all over BC, people in Victoria, Kelowna, Vancouver, Whistler. So it's a good time to kind of, build a family mentality, build your team, build your squad, because, that's your team. That's the people you're asking your questions. That's the people you rely on. If you have any issues, you're going to them first before you send it up to escalate support or theme support, etc. So that was awesome. So you only really had 1 day a week that you didn't have an hour off, or I say off, but like an hour not on channels, which is fine. So Thursdays was always like the highest stress days, and I hated those days. But Fridays were very relaxed because, you had to jump off. You only worked for a bit in the morning, had a lunch, worked for a bit in the afternoon, then you had an hour, and then your wrap-up time at the end of the day. So you had an hour and a half off at the end of the day to actually kind of relax and wind down and talk about the week, which is awesome. I did very much appreciate that. So yeah, that's the day-to-day, at least that I worked at Shopify. You're expected to spend between 6 months is kind of where you really fall into the role and figure it out, and where you can start looking for promotions. Since it's such a fast-growing company, so for example, I was hired in May or June of 2017, I think it was the end of May. And by the time I left Shopify, which was March 2018, 50% of the company was already hired after me. So the company doubled in size by the time I was done at Shopify. So that's how fast we were growing. We were growing by like 400 people a month at one point, which is huge for a small company. So after about 6 months, you could start looking for promotions, start looking for different jobs. So to list some of the options off the top of my head, you have theme support if you're good at themes. You have tier 2, which is your escalated support. You have shipping solutions, financial solutions, risk development, squad lead, There's so many of them you can go over. Dev team. But the ones that I was really focusing on was squad lead, because I already had a lot of management experience in the past. So I was really focusing on that. I took a quick look at team support, but a lot of it was kind of by the book and not being creative, and I love being creative. So I kind of push that off. And then tier 2 was the other big one I was looking at. Because I knew the platform so well since I worked on it, I did really want to kind of get into the servers and do the big problem solving. Because first level support, a lot of it's like, oh, this isn't working. Why isn't it working? And you click a button that they didn't see and it works. So you have a lot of those and a lot of walkthroughs of how the platform works, where tier 2, you get all the ones that people don't understand. So for example, like when I click the add to cart button, like nothing happens. So you have to go in and see, okay, what's the server error that's happening? How do I fix it? Where do I send it? How do I fix it myself? So really interested in that. On top of that, tier 2 works 4 days a week, 10-hour days. And I live in the beautiful British Columbia, as you guys are seeing, or we're going to see. I love doing adventures, I love hiking, so 3 days off is much better than 2 days off. Which brings me to the schedule rotations. So you're on a 6 or 8 week schedule rotation, which means you have 6 weeks of Monday to Fridays, and then 2 weeks, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, I actually don't remember, of off working weekends. So, for example, you work Monday to Friday, Monday to Friday, Monday to Friday, Monday to Friday, and then you have, I think it's Tuesday to Saturday, then you have Sunday off, Sunday, Monday off, and then you work Tuesday to Friday, and then you work Saturday, Sunday, and then something like that. It's kind of, they need people to work the weekend because you have 24/7 support. So you work the weekends for 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe even 4 weeks, and then you're back into your rotation. And it's same thing with the 8 week rotation. You hit the 8 week rotation, and then you have like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks of working a day or 2 days on the weekend, depending on the squad. Which brings me to the cultures of Shopify. Now, everyone there is probably between 20 and 30 area, or majority of the support staff at least. We didn't really get a chance to meet a lot of the development teams or legal teams, but the support would be probably 20 to 30 area. So there is a bit of professionalism, but there's also a lot of young startup tech vibes, a little bit of immaturity, very, very laid back kind of culture, which is great. Like, it's cool to see a company be so laid back yet so professional and so high proficient at what they do. However, if you're just a really professional person and someone who just likes to get shit done, which is actually their motto, is get shit done, act like an owner, then it can be a little bit stressful. So again, like I said before, I was either the first or second performer, depending on the month, out of my 10 people in my squad. And by like that, I mean I kicked everyone's butt. Like I was doing, or me and like one of my friends were doing between double and triple what most people were doing. So for an example, one month I did 200 chats, 50 calls, and probably 200 emails, where everyone else was doing 50 chats, 50 emails, 50 calls. So that can be a little bit frustrating. But applying for promotions, it really does help to know people. Since it's such a young company and everyone there is so young, there is a bit of a clickiness going on. So if you know people, get along with people, kind of reach out to people and really focus on that, then you kind of have a better probability of at least for squad lead, you have a better probability of actually getting the job. Some of the other ones are not so much, especially the newer teams. They kind of just take whoever applies. But if you want to be a squad lead, which is what I wanted to be, especially because I had such good experience, but I do enjoy managing people. I applied for squad lead twice. The first time I applied, I got to the first round. I got past, so there was probably, I think there was 30 applicants. They chose 20 for an interview, and then the next one they chose 15 people, and then they chose the last person. So I made it to the first round, so I got chosen for an interview, got the interview, and they didn't really give me any feedback. They kind of just said, sorry you didn't get the job, maybe work on being a better leader, which is pretty frustrating for someone who, I already run a remote team. I already run a company with staffing of 6 people right now. I do it very, very well, and I have a really high-performing team who respects me, and they have no management whatsoever in their location. It's all done remotely. So that was kind of frustrating. I didn't get much feedback, so it bummed me out for a while. But I still kicked ass. I worked very hard, and then I applied for squad lead again, and I got same thing. There was probably around 30 people. They chose 20 for an interview. And I got to the interview, and this time we had 5 people interview. Before it was just one person, but now we had 5 people in here. There was 2 squad leads, HR rep, a time lead in training. And I got a vibe from the time lead that she just didn't like me. She didn't smile at me, she didn't ask any questions, she just seemed generally pissed off at me, and I was kind of unsure why, because, I am a pretty outgoing person, I work really hard, I keep out of trouble, I don't really communicate, bad things or anything. I'm a very positive vibe kind of person, and I really don't deal with gossip. I just I'm Switzerland. I just sit in the middle. That kind of took me off guard, but I think I did really, really well, and they did, one of the time leads really did like me. It was kind of frustrating because, I got a email back saying kind of a similar thing, like, sorry I didn't get the job, but the difference this time is they actually gave me a feedback interview, or a feedback meeting. So I had a feedback meeting with the person who actually really liked me, and then she said, yeah, I really liked you, we're just looking for a little bit more of this, and this. To be specific, they were looking for a little bit more of, personality flexing, so I'm a very bubbly person, but they're kind of worried if someone wasn't so bubbly in the squad, then I wouldn't connect very well, so they wanted me to demonstrate that I could flex my personality to deal with that kind of management style. And then they wanted me to get more management experience, which is very, very fair within the company. So, taking more of my squad leads on vacation, take over as a POC or point of contact, which is like squad lead while they're gone. So I've already done a bunch of that, and then I was set up to do a bunch more, and I was offered by my squad lead to do some training, which is awesome because that's a really good experience to be a manager and shape how that person is. And then in that, once we got to the training portion, I was in the training, training these people. And then I think, I did it Monday to Thursday, and then on Sunday night, I got a Slack message from my squad lead saying, next week you're just going to be on live channels. We took you off of the training. So, of course, I messaged back saying, why was I taken off training? Did I do anything wrong? And then she said, yeah, we'll talk tomorrow, which was Monday. So yeah, Monday comes around, and at 9:55, I got a Slack message from my squad lead saying, yeah, we have a meeting at 10 o'clock, which is not really enough notice for me because, I sleep till 9:55, get out of bed, then sit down at 10. So I was a wreck. So I scrambled to get up, got out of bed, got my camera set up at my desk. I usually have another monitor here. And opened my laptop, jumped in the meeting, and it was my boss and my boss's boss. And they just started interrogating me, saying, this is what these people said you were doing, you showed up late for work, that you're teaching them bad habits, you're teaching them how to skew stats, which is complete, utter bullshit. So, to go by point, so the first point was that new gurus, the ones that I was training, were taught how to cheat the system and looked like they're doing double interactions by submitting chats open and then Zendesk and then submitting them as solved. So for those who don't understand what that is, we have a chat system, and if you submit it as solved, it immediately goes into Zendesk as a solved ticket. But if you submit it as open, it goes into Zendesk as an open ticket, and then you can solve it again. But that doesn't count as a double interaction. All that does is it gives you time later on. So you have 2 options. You can do the notes inside the chat and then submit as solved, or you can just submit as open and do the notes later. I always did that because I was doing 4 chats. You're only required to do 3 chats at a time, but I was doing 4 chats at a time. So I didn't have time to go and do notes for each individual one. So I'll just submit them as open and then go back and submit them as solved once I put the notes in. But it doesn't count as 2 interactions. That just counts as 1 because, the system's not stupid. So I kind of responded saying, it's definitely not true. That's complete bullshit. I don't see the stats. Go back and look at every single interaction. They'll match up with the chat, not 2. So that was kind of put on the bus. And then there's another one saying that merchants frustrate me, and then you neglect them for waiting longer, which is bullshit as well. Because what I do is if a merchant's frustrated, and what we're taught is if a merchant's frustrated, let them vent for a bit. And then you come back and you answer them. So, I'll go look at the chat. If they're still venting, still typing, because you can see when they're typing, I'll let them finish what they're saying, and then I'll come back and answer once they're done ranting, because you can't cut off someone when they're ranting, otherwise they're just getting more mad. So I taught the gurus I was training to, take your time, go to another chat, answer the chat there, and come back once they're kind of finished up. Or just don't interrupt their chat, because that pisses people off, and that would piss me off as well if I was frustrated. Another point here. Merchants that were perceived as being frustrating were also being spoken to in an inappropriate manner. Which is true, and that one was the only valid one. So when I get frustrated, instead of taking it out on merchants, I kind of just vocally say, "Oh, this person's frustrating me." Maybe use a few swear words and then like joke around a bit. Especially if I'm live chatting with someone, like one of my colleagues, I'll kind of joke around that way. But again, that's not customer oriented. That's how I deal with my frustrations. I could be putting it on the customers or getting all closed down. That's how I stayed cool. Like I would do that and chill with my dog, and that would keep me calm. And I specifically said that to the new guru is being trained, saying this is how I deal with it. You'll find your ways of dealing with it. And then the second last point was you neglected your colleagues by showing up late, leaving early, and not fostering an environment which they felt that they were comfortable asking questions. Which again is bullshit. I have CCTV in my trailer, and I told them I'd happily share it with them, showing that I didn't leave early. I never left early. I employ staff remotely, and I put trust in them. I would expect the same out of myself. So I always showed up on time, never left early. I frequently left late, and I worked overtime, but I never left early. And I said, you know what? That's complete bullshit. If you want, I'll send you the CCTV of me sitting at my desk, not leaving my trailer, working my ass off. And it shows in my stats, right? It shows how much I work. It shows how many more interactions per month I do over other gurus. So those are hard-working staff. So again, I'm on a salary position. I'm not hourly as it is. So that really did frustrate me. The last point was ways to trick the system and how to trick your SL to look good on paper, which is also, again, the theme of this entire thing, that's bullshit. I taught them that they should, since they have a new SL coming in as well, usually you have a SL with squad lead. Usually they have a tenured SL who they join their squad, but since we hired so much, they had a new one as well. So I said, hey, when you get to your squad, make sure, work your ass off, ask as many questions as you can, answer as many questions as you can, keep your wrap-up times really short, and just generally do a good job, and your SL will love you. That's all I said in that department, and they just took that completely out of proportion. And pretty much they said, we're going to have to evaluate your employment at Shopify, which took me off guard because, again, I'm a very high achiever. I work really hard. I train really well. I think I did a great job at training these guys. The only thing that I messed up on is I probably shouldn't have vocally got frustrated. I should have just kept that inside. I still do it if I'm not on camera, but I should have just shut up and not done that. So, I told them that as well. That's my fault. It's my bad. It won't happen again. That's not, in my opinion, I don't think that's, hey, we're going to consider your employment kind of threat. And then I didn't hear much back. So I sent this we had a meeting, in the entire meeting we talked about this, and then I sent a follow-up email. Just, putting on the points, voicing my concerns, trying to prove, that this is all bullshit. I didn't hear back for a while. So I worked Monday to Friday. I think my SL was on vacation in Ottawa. And then on next Saturday, I got it, because that was a weird rotation, so we worked on the Saturday. I got a message saying, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock. If you could be there, that'd be awesome. And yeah, so same thing, kind of, scrambled to my desk, opened my laptop. So yeah, my SL got into the chat, which was a Zoom meeting, and said, hey, this is your HR rep. I'm not going to say her name because I want to keep her name confidential. And she's going to talk to you about your employment. And then she left. My SL left. And I was kind of like, why would you just introduce and then leave? Because I already know my HR rep. I've talked to her a bunch. And then the HR rep said, yeah, we're going to let you go without cause, which in my opinion is bullshit, because we have this entire email thread saying, we're going to consider your employment, and they just let me go without cause, which was very frustrating. Luckily I got severance and all that, so I'm not too bummed out in that sense. But the fact that, my SL didn't say goodbye, didn't give me an explanation, didn't respond to my email, just showed up, said, this is who's going to fire you. They reminding me about my policies and how I couldn't break my contract. I still had to keep my, confidential and all that. So I'm being very confidential about this entire video because I can't share a lot of stuff that I know. But this is all public information. Every guru knows this. Really wasn't expecting to get fired over this. It was not something that should have been fired. Of course, they have all the rights in the world to just let me go without cause. But it's kind of a bummer because I was a really high performer in the company. I had raises. I had great performance reviews. I was got the highest raise in my entire squad. I had the best first or second, depending on the month, of all my stats. Had a awesome review from merchants. I had between a 95 and 100% rating, and then they just let me go. So obviously I'm a little bummed out. But yeah, I did want to share the entire experience start to finish. of what it's like to work at Shopify. The last thing before I let you guys go is I want to talk about benefits. I get that question a lot, is what kind of benefits do you get at Shopify? And they do have good benefits. So I did have, I started off with a $40,000 salary, and then you get around $50,000 worth of benefits. So you have mostly covered dental, prescriptions, all that fun stuff. So you have a good health plan. And then you get a $5,000 spending account, which you can put towards either RRSPs for your retirement or as a spending account. So you can spend this on anything that builds you as a person, anything that builds your business, anything along the lines of that. You can buy like sporting equipment, ski passes, bus passes, anything like that, which is awesome. I use a lot of that. And then you got Shopify for free, which was awesome. I use that a lot. So yeah, you definitely had good benefits. They flew you out or bust you out to a summit every year. So again, I don't want to trash Shopify. I still love Shopify. I still use Shopify, and I still recommend everyone to apply or be employed by Shopify. They are an awesome company, but I wanted to share my experience. It's my right to share my experience. I think everyone should know my experience there and how I was treated. I was treated very well up until that point, but there's something that I think that shouldn't have happened. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Hope it's something that informed you if you're looking to apply or in the application process for Shopify. Keep it in mind. Hopefully I leave it on a positive note. I would always recommend someone to join Shopify. It is a very awesome company. They have awesome benefits, awesome salary, awesome people. Get to work from home. I work with my dog all the time. I could work anywhere in the world. That was awesome. And again, I do not regret it. I would work there again if I could. But obviously, something happened. I'm not sure exactly what it was. But it was enough to let me go without cause. If you are looking to join Shopify, I do have a referral link in the description below. Please use that. It helps me out, helps out my channel. If you need help building a Shopify store, I can develop your store. Again, I was a Shopify guru, and I've been developing Shopify stores for 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever years. So if you need help with that, give me a shout. My social media is below. Just give me a shout, and I'll help you out. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.